Step 2 starts once we get these outdated brake drums officially out of the chat. From there, a little modification is needed on the radius arms, but since I'm already replacing the bushings, I decided to pull the entire trailing arm to get a cleaner cut and save myself some future pain. That decision unfortunately meant slightly dropping the fuel tank so the trailing arm bolt could clear. This is exactly why I became an engineer, to minimize frustrations just like this and not create new ones. Since the Integra caliper bracket adds about 1/4 inch of material, longer studs are a must. The stock CRX ones simply just aren't going to be long enough. So take your time seating the bracket and Integra studs into the beam axle. Line everything up, avoid cross-threading, and pretend every turn of the wrench costs money. Because it does. Once that's done, the fun part can finally begin. The rear hubs, calipers, pads, and rotors can all go on, and now we can start routing the new e-brake cables. Which is exactly where my patience goes to sh*. The parking brake was easily the most frustrating part of this whole swap. Not because it's complicated, but because Honda decided one of the last bolts to be a Phillips head instead of a hex. A personal attack, honestly. Doing this without dropping the tank is possible, but I wouldn't call it fun. More like a test of patience and vocabulary. I reuse as many of the factory mounting holes as possible, but since the Integra cables are longer, you have to get a little creative with the routing. There's no perfect path here, just do your best to keep things clean and out of the way. With the cables finally in place, the last things to button up on the rear are the remaining bushings for the rear transaxle brace and the rear sway bar. Torque everything to spec, or at least give it a little sip of that blue Kool-Aid. You know, Loctite. From there, we move up front to the engine bay, swap the Integra proportioning valve, and modify the Integra master cylinder bore to match that of the CRX's. I then added a thin layer of RTV gasket just to be safe. Quick disclaimer though, this setup did work for me, but always verify your own application before, sending it. By February of 2025, I finally made it to the front end. But like always, everything fought back. With the rear brakes installed and engine bay complete, we can now get the front of the car on jack stands to tackle the next 3 things. The front sway bar, brakes, and bushings. Simple, right? First thing we have to remove are the radius arms. And in order to do that, we first have to jack up the car to relieve the tension between the arm and the torsion bar. After that, we should be able to pull the bolts, unless one of them decides to snap, like this one. Like I always